Attention inshore saltwater anglers, good news and bad news. The bad news is we are raising the price of the Salt Strong Insider Club by almost 50%, 50 here, very, very soon on June the 1st. The good news is that you can get in today and grandfather your rate in for life. So that means if you're a current member, this does not impact you at all. You are already grandfathered in for life at your rate. So you've got 30 days or less, depending on when you hear this, to get in the club, lock in your rate, because as soon as June 1st hits of 2024, we are raising the prices. After not raising them for 8 years, we have some really, really, really big news coming with smart fishing spots and essentially a fishing guide in your back pocket everywhere from Texas to Florida to New Jersey and everywhere in between. We're going to start giving free Slam Shady for life to all our members, free tackle to test out every single month, and a whole lot more. You do not want to miss out. So once again, if you're a current member and you're in good standing, you are completely fine. Your rate is locked in for as long as you're an active member. But if you're not, this is your last chance to join before the prices go up almost 50%. So join today at saltstrong.com. Here's the podcast.
Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way.
And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing.
Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
Hello, Salt Strong Nation. We are back and we're talking about the worst fishing story of all time. The day they laughed at me. And by me, I mean Luke, not me, Joe.
What's this we talk?
You got a mouse in your pocket? Yeah, so we had a few people who've recently who we're just talking with and like, hey, what's like your whole backstory? And, I think we've said it so many times that we think everyone else has heard it. And it hit me that not everyone's heard the backstory and why we even started Salt Strong and the struggles that we had, the frustrations that we had, the shame that we had many times of going back to the ramp or the dock empty-handed with nothing to show for it after being out in the water for 8 hours. All those little things that really were the catalyst for us to start Salt Strong are really, really important. And I'm willing to bet if you stick around here for this podcast, one, you're going to be able to relate to it. And two, hopefully you'll come away with some maybe some new tactics or some different beliefs on how to become a better angler incredibly fast. There are a lot of shortcuts out there. There are a lot of things that you can do to speed up how fast you become a better angler. And so I wanted to get Luke on and really kind of rehash the story because I realized, holy smokes, we haven't talked about it in years. And our Insider Club has gone from, 1,000 to 2,000 to 10,000 to 20 around COVID over to 50,000 now here. And, that probably means the majority of even our own members don't know the whole backstory. So put us where you were, Luke, over there on the East Coast of Florida, living near Melbourne, and maybe even for those that don't know any of the story, start back you and I, growing up, more bass anglers, and then kind of move into that.
Yeah, because there's a series of points where there was some shame, but the one big one was later in life when I was post college in the working world. But just starting out, we grew up bass fishing and started getting into saltwater maybe when we were like mid-teens, like young teens, I would say, and we were good bass anglers, and we went to saltwater. We struggled, like total struggle. We would have some days when we finally started catching some trout fairly consistently, would rarely ever catch reds and sometimes snook. And I remember we'd go out with Dennis Ost. So Dennis Ost was a pro baseball player, and our mom is really good friends with his wife just growing up. And so almost like our aunt and uncle. And he took us out one day. He's a good fisherman, and we caught a slam. So we caught redfish, sea trout, and snook all in one spot. And that spot was close to where we fish all the time. So I remember being so happy, like finally we have a spot to catch slams. And we were going out and buying the expensive equipment. I was using like a $300 reel, or actually, because it was a $200 reel at the time. And now I don't even use that expensive. Like, so I was like, kind of all about, I need to improve. I need to buy more stuff. I need to buy nicer stuff and I'll get better. And it's just so shameful when when that doesn't pan out. So we finally had our slam spot. And of course, we went back there without him over and over again. And that was the only time we ever got a slam there. Turns out there's a lot more to it than just knowing one spot. It's really that day, the conditions were ideal for that spot. And we weren't even thinking about conditions. We were all about that spot. And so, yeah, over years, many skunk trips, many times where even though like we had actually, our family had a flats boat, so we got into inshore saltwater enough to get an actual flats boat, and nothing's worse than coming back with a nice boat and nice gear and not having anything to show for it. And we had that countless times, more than I can count. Yeah, we had some good days, but there was like for every good day we had 4 bad ones. It was like that type of ratio. And when it stung the worst though is this is post college. I didn't fish quite as much through college. Neither of us really did. You were up in Atlanta and I was up in Gainesville. We would just fish on holidays. But after college, I moved over to Melbourne, and so I was on the East Coast. And learning the East Coast was not as really tough as I thought. Kind of the same tactics I was doing was applying over there, and got to the point where most weekends I was fishing, and the people that I worked with knew that I was out fishing. And so a lot of the Monday morning meetings, they'd be say, "Hey, Luke, how was the fishing?" And I'd be so proud to like show some big reds or trout or snook or whatever that I caught. And I remember this one day. This is the one that stung, right? Like I was getting into fishing to the point where everybody that I worked with knew that I fished. Obviously, my family, friends, I'll be the one that would not stay out super late, and so I could get up early morning and go fishing. And that one morning, I had a bad trip. Right, it was just one of the bad trips. At this point, it was like one good one and 2 bad ones. So I was at a better ratio, way better than before, but still struggling. But it was a bad trip. And I was kind of dreading the question, right? It was a big meeting and I knew it would be coming. So I was like trying to make up some sort of excuse. And the best I could come up with, hey, I was like, I didn't really catch a thing. There was, the barometric pressure was off, right? That was the only thing I think of. It's kind of hard to argue that. It's one of those things you can't really see. And so anyhow, I was like, the meeting kept going on. And then this guy, Steve from accounting, doesn't show up very often, but he came in, and this was like 15 minutes after I told everybody that the weather was bad, I didn't catch anything. And Steve from accounting comes in and showing off all these pictures of these giant reds that he was catching only like 15 miles from where I was. So just felt like a total chump. And again, it's bad enough when it's like your friends and family who like, they at least know that you fish a lot. You can see a bunch of proof over the years. There's a lot of people that I kind of worked with in and out. And I was like new at work, right? Trying to like be impressive. And I was like, man, like, I don't know, it hurt more than I thought it would. And because I was taking it on to like, hey, these people know that I fish a lot, know that I take it seriously, and I totally failed. Like, do they think maybe my work ethic's bad? Like, are they gonna just think that even if I try something, I'm not good at it? And so I don't know, it hit me hard to the point where I literally remember the instant he started pulling out the phone and showing the pictures. And I still remember Steve. Like, it was like, of all the people in the meeting, there's like 3 people that I remember the names of, because this was like 20 years ago now. And I still remember it. It hurt bad. And so that was my time where I really got serious and started studying, started watching videos. And that was really the trigger that got me to being consistent. We're now, obviously there's some bad trips, but now it's like 4 good ones to 1 bad one ratio, where it's kind of flip-flopped. But yeah, that it hurts. I'm sure those listening probably felt similar things, but it just hurt extra because it was in front of a group of people that I kind of knew, but I really wanted to impress, and just got totally ruined.
Yeah. So to reiterate, Luke fishes all weekend. Everyone in the office knows it. Comes in on Monday, ask him how he does, and has an excuse that he caught nothing. And Steve from accounting, who's not even that big of an angler, catches a ton of fish. Maybe this is a myth, or maybe this really happened, but I recall someone saying, "Hey, Luke, maybe you should fish with Steve to get some lessons," or something like that, like a kind of like a dagger.
Yeah, it was something along those lines. I was like at the point where I saw the pictures, and everybody that I just said what the fish was bad was right there. Like the whole thing was just I hardly remember. This was years ago. I just remember getting totally shown up. My face was beat red. I was like, I was mad at the world at that time. But it happens, and all we can do is learn from the mistakes, really.
And if Luke was to move his camera over to his wall, it's kind of like Billy Madison, where he has a people to kill list, and Steve from accounting.
He's up top.
He's up at the top. Find that, Steve. But in all seriousness, I think a lot of us, can relate with that. I've had those days, not necessarily in an office like that, but times where you go back home, right, to a spouse who knows all the money that you've spent on boats, right? All the money you spent on rods and reels and tackle, and just the time, right? Fishing is kind of like golf. You're not just out there for 10 minutes. Usually you're out there for hours. And to me, one of the worst now, being married with kids and that time away from them, if I'm doing it without them, it's not fun when you come home and she's like, you were literally gone that many hours and you caught nothing. Like, my wife doesn't understand that. She's like, how hard can it be? And that just, it stings so bad and kind of makes you want to go out there and become better. Either one, it makes you want to quit, or two, it makes you want to, become a better angler and find shortcuts and become more consistent and confident, which kind of ties into the Insider Club, which is why we created that. So fast forward, Luke, that does piss off Luke, right? You really kind of went all in after that, saying, all right, I'm going to study this stuff. You probably even went overkill in terms of documenting every single trip. Talk about what you did to say, all right, I'm going to own this one way or the other.
Yeah, I went overkill. I'm very competitive. And so at that point, I started printing out tide charts. So every day I fish, I'd have like a full printout, like a full page with the tide chart up and down. And I would do the notations on exactly what I caught, and I'd I had a little thing where I could know the spots. So I named all my spots so that I could know where they were, and anybody else who came across my stuff wouldn't. And so now I would log in a folder. So a folder for every single month. And so when I go out there fishing, I will go back to whatever month I was that I'm fishing in and look at my log and see what I did. And that was overkill. It was totally not needed because every month is different, every year is different. The weather is going to come in sooner or later, and that was certainly way overkill. Now the fact that we have everything digital, you can post, like we have the community. So now my log is just in our Insider community where you can see everything. But yeah, so I did a lot of overkill. I did a lot of lure trying. I went out and bought everything, and rods and reels the same. If you might have seen our video about lines where it showed my collection of rods over the years and reels, it's a little bit embarrassing. So I was just trying to find every little angle I could. I started with the equipment. So I have, even for Christmas, instead of getting Christmas tree ornaments, I just go to my box of lures, or multiple boxes of lures, I should say. And I have so many lures, I can easily fill an entire Christmas tree of ornaments. So I went and tried everything. And lastly, like, I was all about equipment and, rods, reels, lines. And finally, I went to actually studying fish behavior. And that was when the biggest change happened, the biggest transition. Come to find out, I'm kicking myself now, right? It seems easy looking backwards, but it's not about the equipment at all. Zero. You can even see that people like Wader Day, a lot of people with no boats, no kayaks, who just go out by foot, are catching some of the biggest fish most consistently. And so it's not about having the fanciest boat or the nicest equipment. It's about knowing fish behavior, about knowing where they're going to be, and then based on the conditions, what they're going to react to, what type of lure, size, speed, depth, what they're going to react to. That's what I was missing. And once I finally figured that out, now, again, most of the lures sit in a box that only comes out for Christmas. And my tackle bag, even with my GoPros, is a 3600 size Plano, which is not very big. So I'm all about less is more now. It's all about fish behavior, focus on finding the fish and exactly what's going to trigger them, and then have just one lure. I have like no more than 10 lures on any given trip, and that includes different colors. It's really all that's needed.
Yep.
So
that's it. And that's been a theme of the Insider Club and what we teach. And why Luke was kind of going through that transition. I had moved from Atlanta over to Texas, got married, had my first child. And for any of you who've been through that, life changes, right? Your priorities change. You don't get to fish and golf and the things you like to do as much. And I found it now for the first time in my life where my time was incredibly valuable, right? When you're young, you're 22 years old, you got all the time, no money. And now I had a job, had a family support. And so I was trying to make money and realized my time was really, really valuable. And so I needed to maximize it. And when I was going out fishing, I found it was hard, right? And I wrote about that in one of those first blogs in the manifesto about I'd forgotten how to tie most of the good knots. Like, when you get out of it for a while, it's like you're just super rusty. And then I feel like I was lost. And every time I hit the water, and I know so many of you can relate with that because we hear that from countless members over and over again. It's like, man, I feel like I'm lost. I have no confidence on where the fish will be. You said it earlier. So many people just say, "Oh, I'll just buy more tackle and that'll fix the problem," and it won't until you put trends first, which is what Luke was talking about the focus on finding the fish, and looking at the patterns. It's really, really, really tough to become consistent, and that was like kind of a light bulb moment for us. So we were in the financial services industry, and we liked it, but we didn't love it. We weren't really fulfilled with what we were doing, is the nicest way to say it. And I remember we were in a hotel room in Chicago at a meeting, and we just kind of burnt out. We're up in the room, kind of hiding from some of our customers. Ironically, the customers that we liked the most were the ones who were in hunting and fishing, that we had a lot in common with, and just didn't love what we were doing. And so remember, we were up there and having a beer and just talking about, man, how cool would it be to just like teach fishing? And then when we talked about it, we're like, there's got to be so many people just like us, from bass anglers who are trying to transition to just people that are trying to learn saltwater fishing, that have to be struggling because, at least at the time, this was pre-YouTube. And the only thing that was there was, remember, Luke, it was fishing magazines and fishing TV shows. That was the only way to truly get better, or hire a guide, obviously, but no one can afford to do that every day, even multiple times a year. For many people, it's expensive. So the only way to truly get education was fishing magazines, which, let's be honest, are more about selling ads. And they're all, by the time it hits your doorstep, it's 90 days old. There's no way you could put trends in a fishing magazine. And fishing TV shows, which are filmed 9 months in advance, right? Maybe even a year in advance before it actually shows in your TV. And so same deal. And once again, I like a lot of the fishing shows. I personally watch some of them, but it's more entertainment than education. And they're all sponsor driven, right? Their bosses are the people paying them to talk about XYZ company or boat or engine or cooler or whatever it might be. And so I was like, all right, if those are the only two ways for people to become better, no one's going to get better. Those are horrible ways to truly leapfrog, years of trial and error. And so the more we talked about it, we're like, yeah, we could do that. We could start a YouTube channel. YouTube was around, but I don't know that anyone was really doing it. Maybe Blacktip H was one of the first ones, and that was it. But no one was doing anything else on YouTube. No one was focused on trends, right? A lot of people were focused on lures that were just starting some content, but the content out there, for the most part, lacked any sort of education about focusing on finding the fish. And so that we knew that was going to be the niche. And the more videos that we produced, we kept hearing people say, well, hey, I'd pay money just to see how did you pre-trip plan to know that the fish were going to be in that spot, right? Because that was the one thing that was consistent, is we were going out, finding the fish, videotaping it, and showing us catching it, many times with lures and not live bait. And people were like, well, man, I want to do that. I'd pay just to see how do you do that? How do you know the fish are going to be there? And how can you catch redfish and trout and snook and flounder on these little lures without having to go lug around a cast net and all that stuff? And so that was really the origin of the Insider Club. And it started with, the 10 people that kept saying they'd want to pay for that. And then, it grew to 100 and then 1,000. And like I said, now we're at 50,000, but that was really the beginning. And what's funny, Luke, I shared this with you the other day. I was looking back at some of the old sales pages, like our old pricing page to join the club. And back then, for the first 2,000 members, there was no tackle discounts, right? Like we have today. We didn't have any of the tackle stuff that we had. There was no discounts at all. There was no smart fishing spots. There was no app. There wasn't even the community. There was a little Facebook private community, but that in and of itself was pretty small and wasn't used as much. It was really just getting to watch weekly trends of us going out fishing and us reporting back the pre-trip plan, remember, and then what happened on the water, and then kind of a post analysis, the same way that NFL teams, right, are looking at their all the different plays and all the game footage after the fact to see what they can learn from it. And that was honestly it. And then we did some unbiased reviews that we wouldn't put out there on YouTube, and that was it. Now, of course, it's evolved into a lot more stuff than that. But it was that simple of just people were willing to pay just to have those trends and just to have an over the shoulder view of how we're going out there and finding fish. And of course, now we've got coaches that have traveled from Texas to Virginia proving all this stuff works in all these different places. And it's been really neat to see it evolve. But that was really the origin. It was two guys that were really frustrated and struggled and wasted a ton of time and who knows how much money buying all the wrong stuff. And we just wanted to put a solution out there because we knew other people had to be feeling like we were.
Yeah, and although we focus primarily on lures, it's not because we don't like live bait. Live bait works, and we still use it on occasion. It's just once we got past the college age and started to have more responsibilities, it's just tough to go out and live bait fish. You have to get up earlier to catch bait. You have to stay later to clean the boat up afterwards. There's just a lot of additional time that is totally skipped if go to lures, and you don't have as much time in the water. I rarely have more than 3 hours at a time to get on the water. And I want to spend every second of that with a chance of catching something big. So for that reason, we focus on, again, just getting as good as possible at quickly identifying what we call the 90-10 zones. That's the fact that 90% of the feeding fish are always in about 10% of the water at any given time. That moves around based on conditions. And so the fact that we do the inside reports that Joe referenced, where we actually show spots for a reason that's like taboo, or at least that was taboo in the fishing industry, is actually show a good spot. For members, we will literally get on Google Maps or whatever map system is best. Now, most we use the high res and smart spots because it's super clear, but we pinpoint exactly where we catch most of our fish. Not so you can go back there, right? The fish move. So that spot's only good for a small amount of time, but just so you can see real life examples of what actually works, like what an actual good spot looks like, so that you can use that and look for similar things near you. Because once you know the type of spot that to look for on the map, and then the conditions and tides at which point that spot is going to be good, now you can start finding thousands of spots in whatever waters you're fishing. And again, that was the missing link that I had for so many years. If only I knew that information, Steve would not be in my memory. I wouldn't even know who he was, right? And I would just say I wouldn't have all this tackle. I wouldn't be putting lures on my Christmas tree like a chump, because I bought too much stuff, and I wouldn't have a whole tub of reels, right? I feel pretty bad about how much money I wasted. Granted, I love fishing, so to me it was worth it, but it could have been so much easier, so much quicker, and way more affordable had there been a club like this that would have just prompted me to focus on the stuff that's important. And then as far as equipment, just going with a small handpicked selection of things.
Yep. And kind of going back to trends, I think one of the biggest things we did to scale all these on the water reports was to build the Smart Fishing Spots app. I mean, in one button, I was showing a buddy I was fishing with here recently. I was showing him all the oyster bars, and he's like, "What?" He's like, "How does it do that?" He's like, "That's so cool. I'll pay for that alone." And then I showed him the 1 foot and even half foot contour lines, and seagrass for areas that have it, the shade relief, and that high res, the 4K satellite. I mean, it's just so much. Now, the smart spots, I'm letting something out of the bag here if you made it this far. So smart spots are the spots that move around, not every single day per se. Yeah, they change based on the tide per day, but they're not moving because let's face it, I mean, fish, they're moving, yes, with the tide, but they're not moving 30 miles across, a bay every single day. That's usually more seasonal. So these smart spots are very, very smart. They do change every day a little bit, but not that much. But what's really neat is we've been working on this for quite some time, is we're going to have I'm going to call it AI fishing coach in terms of like a smart fishing game plan for every single spot. So a lot of you don't know this, but these spots are hand selected by our coaches. I mean, these are spots that we are going out and hand selecting, and then we're using the AI piece of it based on all this intel that we've been doing now for 8 years to say, all right, in this spot at this given day and tide, in this wind direction and this temperature, here's how you're even going to want to fish. I mean, it would be like having a fishing guide in your back pocket where you literally hit a button and you can either have the audio, right? You can hear it's actually Luke's voice. You can hear Luke speak to you on how to fish this spot for that specific day, or you can read about it as well. And this is going to be game changing. No one has done anything like it. I have a feeling we'll probably get some hate mail for it, like we always do. Anytime we do something that's kind of pushing the envelope and helping people too much, I love being told that that's the problem that we're doing, is we're helping anglers too much. Yes, that is our goal, by the way. So that I know we're going to get some hate mail for it, but I can't wait for you to see this. It is going to be amazing. That's just one of a couple really big things that we have rolling out here this summer. So it'll be called the AI Smart Fishing Game Plan. So be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, for anybody watching, so all these little shaded areas, these are the smart spots, and once it's all based on conditions, right? So as the tides and weather changes, the spots change too, right? It's obviously not perfect, right? But it's as close as you can get to an actual AI spot. But also on top of that, we have a fishing school that goes through the full recipe of spot selection, where it talks about, by season, every season's different, talks about the key factors to look for, what happens like during the winter after cold front, right? How do fish react so that you can predict where they're going to be, what happens in the summer, what happens in the fall. And again, that way, those smart spots, you're not relying on them, right? It's just it's something extra, because we have the other layers too, like the oyster bar layer and the 1 foot contour layer has been now the two that I use most often, because with those two layers, where you can find the oysters quickly, you can find that subsurface structure. And then with the 1 foot contour, you can see the actual depth changes right under the water. In the deeper water, my catch rate on overslot snook and overslot reds, even cobia, has skyrocketed once I started using these more advanced layers that are all part of this platform as well.
Yep. And then if you listen to the podcast, you might have heard a quick little intro that we are raising the prices to the Insider Club, and we are, and it's quite drastic, to be honest. And before you freak out, if you're a current member, this will not impact you at all. That's been one of our promises to you, is once you're in, we are going to lock in your rate for life for as long as you're an active member. So this does not impact current members whatsoever. If anything, it impacts you in a good way to make you feel special that we're locking your rates. Don't you wish that all companies did that, right? I mean, think if you had gotten in on Amazon Prime or Netflix in the early years and they had promised you they never raise rates, they'd probably be losing money on you. And that's kind of what's happened, is we've purposely not raised prices for 8 years. I mean, we literally have not touched the prices since we started this. And as I mentioned earlier in this podcast, in the very beginning, we only had 3 things that we offered members, and now we have 30. I mean, from the cheat sheets and all the other shortcuts behind the scenes and all the mini courses and the full courses we give. I mean, it's regardless of what you're trying to do, we have something that will help you do that faster than you ever could do it by yourself. Heck, and faster than you could even do it paying a guide for a day in many cases. I mean, there's some of this is 30 years of intel all combined in just to a couple hours. Really, really amazing stuff. So we are raising the prices. However, at least if you're listening to this in the month of May, because we're not doing it until June the 1st, you have a chance to get in and lock in the current rates for the life of your membership as well. But then after that, as soon as June 1st hits, it is shut down. Everyone who's in is locked in. And after that, everyone is going to be paying, around almost 40-50% more than today, which is a pretty big increase. But honestly, we have to do it. There's some big things that we are going to be launching. As I mentioned, the AI game plan. I mean, we've had to hire a ton of developers, ton of new fishing coaches, and some other guides that we're now using for regional game plans as well. And another big one is the tackle testers. So we're giving away free tackle every single month. Literally, all you have to do is just pay for shipping. So a lot of people just add to whatever tackle they're going to buy anyways and just get free tackle to test out every month. And the new thing we're launching is free Slam Shady for life. So every month they give you at least one pack of some Slam Shady lures, because we believe that Slam Shady works everywhere and is proven to work everywhere, even in India and Australia, other countries now. We're getting reports back. So free Slam Shady every single month on top of the tackle tester and on top of all the giveaways that we're doing in our private insider community. So a lot of really, really cool stuff. But once again, if you're a current member or if you join today or anytime before June the 1st of 2024, then you'll automatically be grandfathered in, lock in your rate forever, and you will be winning by making money from us. But that's really what it's come down to, is the more we looked at our numbers, and the only way we're going to be able to sustain it and grow it is to raise prices. But at the same point, reward the people who helped us get here. I think that's only fair. And if we're going to sit here and call you guys family, we want to treat you that way. So, but after June 1st, we can't be making exceptions. It's we're trying to give plenty of time. It's a full 30 days because we're launching this video and everything right here around the 1st of May, and after that, June 1st, the prices will be going quite a bit higher. Like I said, almost 50% higher. So anything you want to add to that, Lukey?
Yeah, I'll just say again, I just only wish that something like this was available to me before my Steve incident. Ideally, right, as soon as we started in-source saltwater, but even for advanced anglers, I know a lot of people. I was one of them. I fished for many years inshore. I called myself, intermediate to advanced angler, and I was relying on live bait. And I really struggle with lures. I just didn't think lures worked. If that's you, give it a shot. You have nothing to lose. The fishing school alone, it gives the full recipe. It's not like going to YouTube where you get like a bit a piece here, another one here, and they start contradicting each other, and you end up getting more mixed up than when you started. It's all about a recipe. There's a lot of different ways to catch fish, but we give you the quickest recipe possible. We've now trained, we have over 50,000 members, part of this club. We've had a lot of feedback on the lessons, and we've catered them for both people, here in Florida. Also, we have a ton of members in Texas, up through the Carolinas. So we talk about marshlands, we talk about open bays, talk about rivers and creeks, right? It's all in there. And we show you how to use satellite maps for clear water as well as murky water as well. There's a lot of very important information you can get even in murky water areas. And of course, inside Smart Fishing Spots app, that's where you have that subsurface layer for both clear water and murky, where you can actually see the deeper stuff that no satellite map can ever show. And that stuff, that's what takes somebody from intermediate to advanced, right? From catching fish, every other trip or 1 out of 3 trips to, pretty much every single trip, you're going to be putting yourself onto some good fish because it has the tools and it has the real-time trends that you can follow. And just, it's much easier than I ever thought it was. We'll say that. So give it a try. You have nothing to lose.
Yep. So if you want to join, go to saltstrong.com. Current members, thank you guys so much. As I said, no changes to you. If anything, it's just better. Your rate is grandfathered in, and while other people will be paying a whole lot more than you going forward, we will always salute you and thank you for being a part of this. From whether you're one of the very first members, that's pretty cool. I've looked to see some of those first people that were joining back in 2016 are still around and still members. So thank you guys so much. And if you join here right now in the month of May, thank you as well for all the support. Got a lot of really cool things happening. The chapters are exploding. I think it's getting really close to 20 different chapters. Another one opening in Texas, one in Louisiana coming up, North Carolina. So it's really cool to see these chapters. Just another way we're uniting friends and family through fishing. So thank you all so much from the bottom of our hearts. If there's anything we do to help you or serve you, let us know. And if you have any questions about this, I know like we got some 5-year members out there, you're locked in. Like if you have any questions like that, if you're part of the ecosystem and you're an active member, we will always honor that. And we will make sure that you'll be locked in to the current rate. However, if you leave and come back, we can't. This is really to reward people who are active and are still in the membership and still in the community, et cetera. So, but if you have any specific questions that we missed, let us know. at feedback@saltstrong.com, or type in a little question right below the video or blog post. So anything else, Lukey?
That's it. Yeah. And share if you have any embarrassing stories as well. You get the comment section. We love to hear them. And maybe it won't make me feel so bad. And if some other people got shamed like I did in front of a big group.
Now off to find Steve.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you guys. Appreciate you. Whoop, whoop.
See ya.
'Cause fishing, it's in my soul. It was passed down to me from the days of old. Find us on the water if there was a way. It's been said my papa, he wrote the book on catching big reds and 20-pound snook. I wish I knew all the things he knew today. For he's the reason why we are this way. And he put fishing in our soul.